Okay, so first interview question is explain how you plan to support other content areas and interdisciplinary skills specifically related to literacy, communication, and/or technology during your content area instruction. Provide at least 2 specific examples and discuss how each encourages a higher order questioning and stimulates discussion. So, for example, in a US history classroom, I would intentionally embed literacy, communication, and technology skills because they deepen historical understanding. And it supports interdisciplinary learning. So, one of the ways that I would support literacy is to use primary and secondary sources. So, students analyze political, social, and economic causes of, say, World War II. It can be really any topic that way that we can discuss those 3. And then I would have them do guided questions that require them to not only interpret but to justify their answer, and then they would have to evaluate evidence. So that pushes them beyond it pushes them beyond like just being able to recall information, but they're actually like interpreting and retaining that information, but it's supported by historical documents. So a second example I could give you is my use of like a collaborative jigsaw. So students would come together in a smaller group. Each person would take a topic. They would study a source. They would become an expert in that. They would bring it back to the group and present it and back up their claim with historical evidence. So they're working on communication skills, they're challenging interpretations, and then they're having to defend their thinking. So that's one way. And then technology, I like using Google Classroom. So I can put out an exit ticket, and I can have some questions. So some students who need different supports, they can respond with verbal. So like they can do speech to text. Another option is multiple choice, or if I want even deeper understanding, I can have them write like a quick paragraph. So that's how I would support their higher order of questioning and stimulate discussion in my classroom. Another question is describe accommodations that are appropriate for use in your content area during summative and formative assessments to meet needs of all students with varying backgrounds and disabilities. So as a teacher, we all have to make accommodations for the types of students that we're going to have, whether that's IEPs, 504s, ELL. So knowing what I have in my classroom or what students I will have in my classroom, I will be able to build on that. So that includes like providing leveled text, so all students would be able to read, but at their level, and having bilingual glossaries, visual glossaries with like icons for students. And then as we get into like the paperwork side of things, having a graphic organizer is super helpful for students. So for response accommodations, like I said previously, like allowing verbal responses, I can do sentence framing, so I can start the sentence off, they can finish it, again, verbally, written, whatever works best for that student. And then like in a mapping situation, so we can do a map partially filled in. For setting accommodation, I think doing flexible grouping and like the structured peer teaching is good. Sometimes students respond really well when another peer is breaking it down for them, as long as it's like accurate information. So that's how I would support students that way. If we went into a summative assessment, again, like asking those students to like less questions or providing them a different way to answer. Those are the ways I would support those types of students. So the third interview question is: discuss how you plan to analyze the effectiveness of your classroom instruction. Describe how you will use your analysis to guide instruction during the lesson and for future planning. So as I analyze instructional effectiveness through I'll do it through ongoing formative assessments. So again, that's like back to the Google Classroom. That's so nice because it gives instant feedback, instant data. Like I can know this student ABC, they're understanding what is being taught. C, D, E, they're struggling, or they understand partial and maybe not another piece. And then other students, it's like they're out in left field, but we can get them there because I know where they're at. So the exit tickets are really, really good. I think just going around the classroom as they're working, listening to their conversations, checking their work, that is another good way for me to decide like they're getting it. I can go right into it and say, hey, this piece is right, this piece is wrong, let's talk about it. So that's a good option. And then that helps me going into like, is the class ready to move on to the next section? Are they ready for this next skill? So that is how I would use that to be able to know where my students are at. Another question is: discuss a few strategies you have used or plan to use to teach higher order thinking skills in your classroom. So when we talk about history, we are constantly analyzing, we're interpreting, we're justifying our answers, but we also want to teach students to think the way historians think, right? And not only that, but we also want to take these topics and try to apply it to real life situations or things that are going on in the world right now. And there's so many instances where we can do that. So taking the Holocaust, I mean, horrible event, right? But locally, we have a Japanese labor camp here. We can take something, we can compare the two so they can see it for themselves, but also compare it to things that happened even further back and like the effects of it. Like, what effects are we still seeing today because of these events? The next question is: provide an example of how you have successfully implemented technology in the classroom to support student learning or assessment. So obviously the Google Classroom, love it. It's great. It's one of my go-tos. I think using, there's so many options with history. You can do like digital museums. We can use Kahoots. The options are really endless. I think that using videos too, students don't want to sit there and listen to me lecture them all day long. So getting videos in there, checking for understanding, video, worksheet, those are ways that I can support students. But also some students are visual learners, so me sitting here lecturing the students, writing on the board, whatever, that is not always going to engage students. They learn better when they can see something happening. So like the Shang Dynasty, and we watch a video about it and they get to see more of what it was really like, other than just me trying to describe that. So again, like supporting IEPs, 504s, ELLs, having like reading leveled stuff for them, having bilingual like glossaries, and then maybe even some more supportive videos for them. So that's how I would support and implement like technology and learning assessments within my classroom.